Hi, this is Jamie, and welcome to Over a Cup of Coffee with Jamie and Addie. We are really excited about our guest today. She is the first ever recipient of the Small Business Woman of the Year through the Farmington Chamber Professional Women's Summit. We're so excited to talk to her. She's got great advice, and we're just excited to be back. So welcome. Hey, welcome back to Over a Cup of Coffee with Jamie and Addie. We have been on a big break. I was looking at the calendar. September early was our last podcast. And Jamie and I have been so busy doing so many things. And we're excited for our special guest today. How are you, Jamie? I'm good. And we should never get so busy that we don't do the podcast.
I know.
Because when we get off schedule, then I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's been that long, honestly.
Yeah, it aired September 16th.
That's
so
crazy.
I know. And now we're in November and holy cow, but a lot has happened. A lot is coming up.
I know. So let's talk about how awesome the Women's Summit was.
Yeah.
Because the last couple episodes, we talked mostly about the Women's Summit, and it was amazing.
It really was. So. Yeah, it was a great day. Oh my gosh, 400 attendees. So many amazing sponsors. A great lunch was provided. It's going to lead us into our guest. But, you know, so many good takeaways of reinventing yourself, taking care of yourself, making sure that you're a priority in your world, because we all know how quickly we get off balance and kind of knocked out of our own bubble, and when we're putting everybody else's needs before ours, and we are no good to anybody or ourselves when we're doing that.
Right.
And so, but we had a lot of really solid messages about prioritizing ourselves, prioritizing our families, our businesses, and making sure everything has its space, but we ultimately have our space.
And our theme this year with reinventing yourself, I think we really wanted to reiterate that message, and today on this podcast too, about you're not stuck in your life. You have choices. And sometimes it feels like we don't, because circumstances can just get out of our control and nuts. But we can learn new things. We aren't stuck. We can make choices. And I think that was a message that is important, not only at the Women's Summit, but going forward every day.
Every day, you know? You can always pivot.
Exactly.
And I know, I mean, I've been in dark places in life and thought, oh my gosh, there's nowhere else for me to go. I've lost this and that and everything else, and now I don't know where to go from here. But you find that one little speck of sparkle somewhere and you grab it and you figure it out and you run with it. There's always one little piece, you know. I don't know if anybody's ever had like confetti thrown in their house during like a New Year's party, which I have, and it made me so crazy. But for years in that house, I would still find glitter or a piece of confetti somewhere tucked behind something. And until I moved out, like there was literally confetti somewhere in that house. And I think of that when I say like, find that one little glittering piece and grab it.
Right.
Because that's, you know, our lives are like confetti.
Yeah.
There's so many different pieces in our bag, and you just reach in and grab something and go.
That's a cool analogy. So for our listening audience, we're here in Farmington, New Mexico. We're in the northwest corner of the state of New Mexico in an area called the Four Corners. And we're really excited to introduce our special guest. So Monica Shultz, who many in Farmington know. She is the owner and operator of the Chile Pod restaurant, which is a Farmington favorite located in a really neat historic downtown. So welcome, Monica.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you. So Monica catered the lunch for 400 attendees at the Women's Summit, and it was extremely well done.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I can only imagine how stressful that was.
It was slightly stressful, and I always start each year wanting to give something just unique and dynamic, and then the bigger it gets, the more I have to scale it back, and that's what happened this year. It was originally supposed to be soup and salad bar, you know, representing our, you know, unique flavors with the green chili stew. But then the larger it got, I just could not see how I could provide a quick, efficient lunch service if I did that. So then we started to scale back and edit, and then the closer it got, one day I just thought, how am I going to prepare all this food in my tiny kitchen? And as I think several people know, I am working on an expansion, but it is still in the works. We just barely broke ground today, so hopefully that'll be done sometime early next year. But, you know, how am I going to prepare food for 400 people and I have no space? I can't even walk through my kitchen currently because I'm in the way. That's how busy it is, how, you know, it's really compact in there. So I had to just make a lot of decisions, and some of them I wasn't exactly, you know, comfortable with. First, you know, editing just what we were serving, and then also making decisions like making sure I was bringing in products that were already as much prepared as I could get them, so that I could eliminate, you know where I was going to do it, and also finding refrigeration. That was huge, and I was very fortunate because I had a contact who allowed me to utilize his refrigeration, and that is what kind of saved the day. And I only needed it for 24 hours.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
So well, I can tell you the feedback we got was amazing.
That's good.
Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, I know your story because I've known you for a long time, but can you, for our listening audience and our Facebook audience, who is curious to know, how did you get your start in the restaurant business?
Well, unknowingly, it started with the Farmington Chamber of Commerce Chili in October Chili Cook-Off. And so what happened is I was just reading an article one day, and there was an advertisement to join a chili cook-off. And I just thought, why not? It would be fun. You know, I think when your kids start to become like preteens, you're always looking for ways to kind of reconnect with them and kind of keep them, you know, just things
motivated
to do
and involved with
lively things. So we joined, and it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to get up really early. We had to cook our food there on location, and the family support was really awesome. And I have a lot of pictures that I try to post periodically, and you'll see like my nephews, my cousins, my children, just different family members coming through. And I have a picture of every one of them like taking a turn mixing or whatever. And it was just a fun event. And we won People's Choice for our red chili 4 years in a row, I believe.
In a row.
I remember that first year, and I remember so many people were like, where did she come from? Who is she? That was the best red chili I've ever had. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know, because it was so similar to what I grew up with my family and my grandmother's recipe for red chili. And I'm always on the lookout for that, always, because you can't find,
I think green chili is easier to, green chili is easier to find, red chili I think is harder.
It is hard, yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
What year then? So you won the Chili Cook-Off 4 years in a row, which I remember because Addie and I were both on the committee and helping. But when did you actually officially open the Chili Pod?
I opened March 3rd in 2016.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so originally my thought was to open a small carry-out type of, restaurant. And my uncle owns a restaurant, so I worked for him and my aunt in Cuba, New Mexico at the Del Prado restaurant.
Oh, okay.
And so I had a very tiny bit of experience. I used to be a server there. I did dishes. I cooked slightly. So I had a tiny bit of experience. And so I thought, maybe I was going to open this little tiny restaurant that did carry out. And he told me, and I say this number because I thought it was just silly now, but he was like, buy 60 plates. And I went and I bought 60, cups, spoons, forks, plates.
Serving, settings,
And, on the first day that I opened, we surpassed everything, all the knowledge that I had on day one was gone. And I think I remember that we initially warmed up on day one, like little third pans of food. So like a third pan of green, red, whatever. And on day 2, we went to half pans. And then on day 3, we were moving to full pan. So it was instantaneous. Wow. I was not prepared. It was just more than I could have even thought of or hoped for. It was crazy. I'm not going to lie.
So you opened in 2016 and found, like you said, overnight almost success with the restaurant. Yes. I mean, your location was great, and that was even before the downtown renovation. Yeah. So you've been in business 2016 and you get to 2020. And that's when everything, especially for restaurants, and we're in New Mexico. So again, for our listening audience who might be from other states, in New Mexico, basically restaurants were shut down or very restricted for a very long period of time. Other states didn't have that same sort of
and the ones that are attached to us that are like right around us. You know, Texas was pretty well open during this time frame, so it was really frustrating. I know for all of us, knowing that just on the other side of our state line there was big life happening still, and here we were suffering, and our hospitality industry was suffering.
So, can you kind of talk about that challenge and how you made it through that time?
Well, initially, I believe when we first shut down, I remember just the horrible feeling when I had to just lay everyone off. That was just really just gut-wrenching. It was horrible. But I remember, I'm trying to remember back, we closed for 2 weeks because in the beginning they said if everyone stays home for 2 weeks. And I think that was the first thought. So I thought, well, we'll just close. So we closed after I laid everybody off, and then I think we made the decision to close. So we closed for 2 weeks, and then it was still ongoing. So it was like, well, we can't continue to stay closed. So then we reopened, which was really, really hard. And there's some things that happened in that. I think I got a catering while we were closed, and we tried to fulfill it, and it was so hard to go back from starting from nothing. You know, so when we closed, we distributed all the food that we had to all the employees. We tried to make sure that they were okay. And then when we reopened, I contacted, I think I needed a few people. Originally, we started back with my mom, myself, my daughter, my chef Damon, and just a few other people, few key people. And then the carry-out started to take off, and we did a lot of things. There was a few things that I had in place beforehand, and one of that was Facebook and Instagram. And I really think that that's what helped us kind of in the beginning, because I just advertised every day.
Getting your message out.
And just trying to let people know we were there. And then we came up with the family dinners, which really,
those were so
where you
amazing.
could go in and pick up the pre-made like enchiladas or whatever to take on. That so smart.
And that really helped us, because people weren't eating out, but they were taking home, and you know, you wanted it to be affordable and easy. So that's really what helped us kind of like pivot, I think, through some of that stressful point. But we did everything. I mean, I could have been upset and been angry about the situation, but I felt like I didn't even go there. I chose to just tackle every hurdle with whatever I could, and there was a lot. I mean, it used to be a joke between us that it was like, what hoop are we gonna have to jump through today? And I mean, we had carry out. We had a store at one point in there.
Things from your store. We bought some of the family meals for the hotel because you know we were fortunate not to have to lay anyone off just because of those hurdles that we and hoops we jumped through to be able to maintain a higher occupancy than other hotels because of the people we had staying with us, housed with us is what we had to call it, you know, the housing. But so we would feed everybody that was there, whether it was doctors and nurses, whether it was the team that was working with us, like whoever was there, we tried to do that with all of our local restaurants that were we noticed it. There was a lot of companies that gave us support, and I mean, that's how we survived. I think we advertised like crazy. The social media helped. I had Grubhub installed in my restaurant, and I had not yet one
used
of the
it.
first ones.
I hadn't used it because I wasn't sure how to get it to work efficiently, and so I already had that installed. So fortunately, once we tried to figure out how to use it, and it was a hot mess. I tried delivering at one point, and I hated it, and it was just really hard. So then we start with Grubhub, and then we ended up getting Grubhub, DoorDash, and then society started coming up with apps, and so then like our register system, our point of sale system had apps, and so now we have 3 apps, I believe, that people can order online, and it was just so much work. I mean, I was having to do a menu for each app and pricing for each app and pictures for each app, and then it was just a lot. I mean, constructing tents. My husband was working out of the state at the time, and I was out there trying to put up tents and just things I wasn't familiar with. And I remember one day that I had a really kind customer just come up and show me he taught me how to do a knot. Knot to be able to keep the tent, up, because I was just sitting there struggling, and he just came over and showed, and I'll never forget him because, it was a community type of effort to survive. The city was very great. We're very grateful to them. They provided us with tents and just a lot of help.
Yeah, because, and for people who don't know, you couldn't eat inside.
We had outdoor dining.
So, so everybody had to get, had to be, I just lost my word.
But so if there was a positive that came out of it, I think it is that now you have a permanent outdoor structure, which we love. And you're not, and another downtown restaurant, Boone's Thai, has done that as well. And so now you have this amazing permanent structure out front. So the city of Farmington had done a downtown renovation, and part of that was widening the sidewalks, which had already been in the plan before COVID even happened. So now you have this great permanent outdoor structure. So it's one of those sort of like, it really was a challenge at the time, but now it's actually a real benefit that you have that. Had that ever been in your thoughts before?
No, I haven't really thought about it. And I think they made a lot of things happen. They made things easier for you to be able to obtain those types of permits and stuff. The state did, and also the city. And you're right that the road construction did start in January 6th, right before COVID hit.
That's right.
But we actually had an increase in sales during that time period, and it's because the city of Farmington really advertised for the downtown businesses, and they asked their staff to try to support us. So we actually had an influx as opposed to a decline. So that was really nice. And so we had a lot of support. I mean, from so many people.
Right.
So that's why we're still here.
Such a great story. It's one of my favorite stories. And you mentioned something earlier that I want to get back to, and you said that's family. You have a lot of family involved in this restaurant. So there's got to be some advantages to that, but then there has to be some challenges to that too.
It is challenging, I work with my mother, my sister, my daughter, and my sons have worked there at different time periods. And my husband, Shannon, he's like, he tries to stay out of there.
I can only imagine. Too many cooks in the kitchen is what they say. So
but it works well. I think that we really try to put our best selves, forward. And it hasn't always been easy. There's been times that we've had to, of course, sit down and just be like, I'm sorry I was stressed in the moment, but, really just a lot of forgiveness and just really, you can't focus on the stain of whatever of anyone,
right?
And in the family, and you just really need to look at the bigger picture and the bigger service that they give you. I could never I haven't done any of this on my own. It started first with my husband, and I always say this, because you always have somebody who's your backbone and who's mine. And then my family that works there for me, that's how we provide such good quality. And it's because my mom, I'll give you a story. One day my mom was walking through the kitchen, and 6 feet away, she says, "What's wrong with the carne adobada? Why is it that shiny?" And we all look, and we're just like, "What's wrong with it?" We couldn't, And so then we taste it, and somebody had, when they made the recipe, they had put sugar instead of salt, and she caught it by eye from 6 feet away. So
that's those old family recipes. Knowing that the generations have been making them and passing them forward, and those are the things my grandmother could tell by smell that something was wrong. And she would be like, she'd walk into the house and be like, "Oh no, who started this? I said don't do it."
And nobody will work harder and is more loyal than my family. And there's a few employees that most of my employees. I don't know if you've been coming for a while, but
You've got a lot of the same people.
I try to be kind and fair and work with their schedules, and I mean, and we do the best we can, and it doesn't always work out, but we really try to kind of keep a family environment there, and I hope it works, and we care about
it definitely
the
does.
customer, and the product, you know what I mean? So like if I could be in my office, I could get a 1-star review for whatever reason, and I'm calling downstairs, and we'll walk down, and there's been times that the people are still there, and we've corrected the issue before they leave. So we have that care for the customer, the product, over anything else. So, and I think that that's what we try to show.
A big part of your success. That's any business that we're not, you know, just, it's not just me, like with what I do, it's the whole team. I can't
Exactly.
do what I do at all for my hotels if I
Exactly.
didn't have such a fabulous team in every department.
Exactly.
And then our clients, our guests, like if we weren't providing them exceptional service and treatment and care and loved our product, there's no reason for them, you know, with every other restaurant, with every other hotel, with every other business that does the exact same thing, we have to set ourselves aside. And you guys have definitely done that.
I have an amazing
It's
team,
our
and I'm very,
favorite
very
restaurant.
fortunate. And there was a lot of things. I remember when COVID hit and everything was coming back and it was maximum busy. I remember I had to show the money. You know, there was people that were working for me, and I could see some of the offers that were out there, and I was like,
it
oh
got
my goodness! Even though
crazy.
these people are loyal to me and probably wouldn't leave, it wasn't fair to them.
Right. Good
Yeah.
So
point.
I had to, like, you know, make sure, and then we had to give, you know, raises,
Yeah,
and
we did the same
and-
thing.
and tried to keep them, and we've
Yeah.
kept most of them, and we're
Yeah.
you know, I'm really happy. You know, it's I'm lucky because I've kept so many of my main people.
I think you made a
a
really good
huge
point
difference.
that anybody in any industry or family can take, and that's like you said, if there's a problem, you really try to address it quickly. And we went to a training together, both Monica and I, on Crucial Conversations, and I think there's that moment of taking a step back and a breath, you know, and just collecting your thoughts, but not to let these things fester or, you know, address if it's a customer complaint or something with staff or family, to try to have a conversation to solve the problem. And it sounds like with what you're talking about with customers is that customer service, but also with your employees, to try to just keep everybody's morale high and things going. So I think that's a really good lesson that
And it's
everybody
hard
can do.
sometimes. That
Yes.
is
Yeah.
difficult because sometimes, for instance, if it's slow and
Yes.
the you know, nobody in the front is making any money and the guys in the back maybe aren't getting any other hours, I can't even feel what I'm feeling, because I feel that too, but I have to keep everybody uplifted and upbuilt.
Right.
So it takes like a
Be a
whole
cheerleader all the time.
all the time, and it takes a toll on you because it is hard to be that uplifting, upbuild person. And but I've found that I think it still works better anyways. You know, we just, you know, just try to keep.
Stay positive.
Well, and recently, very recently, at the Professional
That's what I
Women's
was gonna
Summit,
bring up. I was
we
like,
did. I know.
we need the
I know.
real
I
story
know.
here.
So we awarded our very first ever Small Businesswoman of the Year at this year's Women's Summit, and it was a surprise. I think there were only 4 of us who knew, and that was myself, and then Addie and Georgette, who are the co-chairs, and then the mayor, because I'd asked him to help present it. Nobody else knew. Nobody else on the committee, and you were our first
not even
recipient.
any of my other best friends.
No,
knew. Like,
nobody
I didn't
knew.
tell
You didn't
anybody. This was
know.
the
Yeah.
best secret I've ever
I
had, by
know.
the way, in my whole life.
So you were our recipient, our first ever recipient
Thank
of the
you.
Small Business Woman of the Year. And this is now an award that will continue every year, but you will be the first, always the first. And can you tell, I mean, your face was priceless, and we have
No, it was
pictures on our
amazing.
Facebook page if you want to see.
Yeah.
But can you just tell, like, what did it mean when we said it was you in front of
I was-
400 people?
I was shocked. I was completely shocked. I literally just could not even believe it because I don't know how I got there. I mean, I truly, you know what I mean? Like I just tried to just do the best I could, and which I mean, but most people do. So I don't know how I got there, but I'm very grateful. I thank you guys so much, and I felt so bad that day because I could not get up. I don't know if you noticed, but when I stood up there, I kept my head down and I could not look out, you know, because even though, and I find it so strange because as women, you know, I feel like we can have some honesty, and like when I was walking among them, serving them, I was completely fine and comfortable, but I could not get up there and like
Own it.
look upon them and take that and be comfortable.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that, I thought
you
that was interesting.
explained-
I
I
think
think you explained very well why you
Yeah.
won it. I mean, we're
Yeah.
awarded that because
Yeah.
you've talked about your staff and your customers and how you've stuck with this and pivoted. So,
you.
what were you going to say? Addie? I'm sorry. I didn't
Oh,
mean to
I was
interrupt.
just going to say that stage that day, because I've been on many, many stages with different amounts of people out in the crowd in my lifetime, but I don't think I've ever stepped in front. It's all our peers. We know the majority of those women that were in that room that day. All of us here do. And when I stepped up on that stage just to announce the next speakers, I was like, oh, oh no, I don't think I
Yeah.
can talk today. But just that, and then thinking, oh my gosh, you just got this big surprising award, and I can see where it was,
Yeah, it was
a little daunting.
I had
probably.
like white hot, like I looked in my brain to see if I could come up with a few words, and there was nothing there.
But and you were completely surprised in front of a
Yes.
large group of people. And
Yeah.
that's why we really wanted to give you an opportunity today, because on the podcast, because we know you've had a little time now to collect your thoughts. And we do want to hear from you. And for anybody out there who is listening who maybe wants to start a business, what advice would you give? Whether they're looking to go into the restaurant business or what was your biggest challenge? What advice would you give to somebody who's
I
thinking
think I'm
about
going to
doing
give
this?
opposite advice of what's normally given, because I did not have a plan. You know, it was kind of, I was on Facebook one day at work, and and they posted from the building, the lady that was there before me, she was trying to get out of her lease.
Oh, that's right.
And so I just told my husband when I got off work that day, hey, do you want to go look at this building downtown that's for lease? And it was a restaurant. So him and I, we drove down there. We looked at it. We met with, her name was Patty Vargas. She had the cakery
Yes,
there.
oh, yeah,
if you
that's
remember.
right.
That's right.
And so we met with her, and she liked us. And I don't know if that's how it started, but we kind of just gave her like an idea. Oh, we're thinking of opening like a new Mexican restaurant, And so then we left there that day, and she texted me, hey, there's several people looking, and I told the owner about you, and here's his number. Can you text him? So I texted him. So no plan, just from going that day I signed the lease the next day.
Wow.
24 hours, and I didn't have any money. So so this is not your normal.
Well, that's okay. Sometimes
But that's great though. Sometimes you have to jump.
And
Otherwise
I
you
think
overthink it. You
so
won't
I
do it.
didn't have
Yeah.
I didn't have any, I wasn't sitting there with this whole business plan. It happened that fast. I called my mom and I said, Mom, if I open a restaurant, can you move up here and help me? And
She didn't even live here then?
No, she lived in Cuba.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
she said yes, and then so I kind of lined out a little bit of money for my husband's 401k, some savings, what credit cards I had available, and just and I called my uncle in Cuba and I said, I have this much money. Do you think that's enough to get this open? And he said, yeah. So I showed up the next day and I was prepared, and people wanted this location.
Yeah, the
there was
location's
people
great.
waiting. Out, their appointment was at 3 and mine was at 11 or something, and no, mine was at 3, and they waited from 11 o'clock trying to get in with the owner, but he honored that he would meet me at 3, and I was prepared to make the deal that day, and I wrote the check, and I think that was January 28th, and 30. I had no money.
Did you sleep that night after you wrote the check?
No.
Did you sleep?
No, and then my
Laid
mom
awake
kept
all night.
calling me. My mom kept calling, can I quit? Can I quit my job? And I was afraid at that point to make those decisions. But we ended up, she came up here and we just cleaned. And, when I first walked in the first day, everything was beautiful. But then on day 3, I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't have this. We don't have that.
Then
We need
the
this.
reality sits
and
in.
then reality sit in. But then at that point, there's nothing you can do. So you just
you're
have
in.
to figure it out. And so that's what we did. And we opened on March 3rd. To maximum crazy, we had the Daily Times was next door.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
that,
They
and
did an
that's the
article.
Farmington
Yeah, it was our
newspaper here in
newspaper.
Farmington,
Yeah.
the Daily Times.
And they did an article, and I thought it was going to be like in the little lifestyle section, but with this front page article. So on day 1, it was just busy. And my husband was working for P&M at the time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so, and I think that's also part of the reason why we were successful is because he just talked me up all day long over there. And so we had a lot of people from P&M supporting us. And I knew that because for months and months and months, my husband would be like, hey, so-and-so said they didn't get this, or you should do this, or whatever, this was wrong, or whatever.
You're getting all that
And so
feedback.
we
He was involved, but just not inside the 4 walls.
But I think after a time period, I finally was like, I'm doing the best I can. I can't hear it anymore. I can't take it. We're
Right.
trying. And like I told you, I didn't know what I was doing. So it took a long time. And I had small town knowledge too.
Right.
So it took a long time of just trial and error to get to where it was something that I could, produce consistently and regularly and stuff like, that.
So for the Farmington audience, the Facebook and those listen, tell us a little bit about the expansion. So what's the plan, and what's your, the long-term plan with that expansion?
Well, we have, the Chile Pod has its own momentum, and it's not allowing me to sit back. So we're having to do, our kitchen is so small, we're having to expand. So we purchased the building to the east of us. It's the old HQ building.
The headquarters for the downtown project.
Yes. So we purchased that building in January of this year, and everything has been really slow with COVID. So just getting quotes and just different things.
Yeah, construction's been a nightmare for multiple people. Because
Yes, and you know, everything is so expensive, and so it's just been a lot of just hurdles to get through. But finally today, we broke ground, and so what we're doing, it's going to be an independent type of restaurant, but we're going to be tied into the current building, so we'll have both, you know, spaces. So we're going to have like a cool new building. We're trying to put some cool stuff in it. We'll have a nice, really modern, efficient kitchen, which I'm looking forward to. We're going to have additional items there, like a charbroiler and different things. That'll be nice. And then the other building, it's going to allow us to really kind of expand our catering and maybe do, you know, just be able to do more prep work and stuff there. And then I think that other space will be overflow, or maybe we, you know, do any type of banquets or anything like that. Or who knows, maybe I'll be, you know, selling some chili from there.
I was going to say a store. And that's what's so exciting, is that you have not only are a small business owner here, you made it through COVID, some of the most challenging times, a total downtown renovation where basically all of downtown Farmington was closed off for the front entrances. I mean, you have just succeeded, and your staff, your team, and that's why we were so excited to award. And we thought it was perfect. There was never a moment when we thought,
questioned it.
No, not once.
Like
we knew.
The name,
absolutely.
Yes, it was all right there with no question about it. Yeah. And I know I go back to, because the chili cook-off has been something I've helped with from its inception all these years. And I just remember, I will never forget that first year that you set up, and you blew everybody away. And then the next year you came back, and the whole committee was like, do you think she's going to come back? Do you think she's going to do it again? And and then you came back, and then, you know, but it was, and again, like I remember having a few cooks that were like, oh, she's going to win again.
Well, you know that I stopped competing because I believe on the fourth year you guys all had to make chili because nobody entered in the red.
Yeah,
I think you had one or two entries,
Ginger,
and so
Ginger Palmer, she had to make chili because me and Linda Aniska we handed out chili for her husband Rick.
So people were like, we're not going to compete if you're in it. So now you've helped in other ways. You've judged, and you've, you know, I just think it's such an amazing success story.
It really
and
is.
We can't thank you enough. You are now on our board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce here in Farmington. You have been instrumental in the success of the Women's Summit over the past 2 years as we have grown that event. And so we just appreciate you and what you're doing as a small business here in Farmington. And we do hope that if you're listening outside of the area of Farmington and you travel to Farmington, New Mexico, that you come visit the Chile Pod and you taste some of the amazing food they have there and say hi to Monica, because chances are she'll be there. So
exactly.
Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you guys so much.
And I'm excited that we got back to filming our podcast.
I know, me too. It felt so good to sit here and do this again.
I know.
So we can't let so much time go by, no matter what we're doing, no matter what events we're planning or businesses we're opening or helping or what we're doing.
Because there's a lot of great stories out there to tell. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Over a Cup of Coffee. And we'll see you next time, and we won't let so much time go by. Thanks.